time after time, thinking things will stay the same. Like a game isn't played that way. You've got to stay on track. Walk on, watch your back. Walk on, stay on track. Walk on, watch your back. Walk on, looking around you and thinking it's okay. Forgetting about the things that you did yesterday.
Welcome everyone back for the socialengineer.org podcast. We're actually on podcast number 4. If you can believe that, we made it 4 months so far, guys. We have with us today our panel of David, a.k.a. Relic. How you doing, Dave?
Woohoo!
I guess you're doing good. And Jim, a.k.a. Elwood. How you doing, Jim?
Not as good as Relic by the sounds of it.
Okay, I don't think anyone's doing as good as Relic. And we have our special guest with us today. We have Brad, or a.k.a. the Nurse. How you doing, Brad?
Terrific. Thanks for asking.
No problem. We're missing Mutz this month. He's traveling right now, so we have to have a little moment of silence. He's not here with us. Okay, that's about it. But we'll have him back next month. We love you, Mutz, and we miss you. Talk a little bit about some of the new things that are going on with socialengineer.org. We are doing some revamping of the framework, kind of rewriting some of the sections that maybe were older or lacked some of the depth, going in there and making them deeper, adding some more content into the framework. We have a couple videos that we're working on that hopefully we'll be releasing those soon too. Of course, our newsletters and podcasts are constantly being updated, but I think probably our biggest update so far is the updates to the Social Engineer Toolkit. Dave, I think you just got done with some massive updates on that. You want to give us a little overview of what you're doing there?
Yeah, I just changed a couple of texts here and there, and it wasn't really that big of a deal.
Nice, real nice.
Well, long story short, I switched jobs. I work at Diebel now. I'm a director, which sounds powerful, but I got sent to Russia, and so Russia, flying business class, they have Empower and all that good stuff. So I definitely had a good 12 hours of coding there, 12 hours coding back, and then at night it's like negative 15 degrees out there, so not a good place to go and hang out and those type of things. So I sat in my hotel room and coded. So I knocked out probably about an additional 2,000 to 2,300 different lines of code for the social engineering toolkit and completely revamped it. In fact, I think there's more lines of code now than when I originally first started writing it.
So we got to thank God for negative 15 weather and 12-hour plane flights.
Yeah. So I'll be going to Brazil in February. So expect another big update in February.
Awesome. Now some of the things we talked about before, like being able to capture a whole website, download it, copy it, that's now live, right? That's
live, and I've tested it rigorously on probably about 50 or 60 different sites, just making sure that it works. And what it actually do is, if you're familiar with the social engineering toolkit, there's a website attack, and the website attack vector, what it does is it creates a fake website for you and injects a Java applet that's signed by the Microsoft Corporation. Now, there's some things I'm going to be changing in 0.4 that will actually allow you to sign it to whatever you want to. So if you want to sign it Google or you want to sign it something else, it'll dynamically create the certificate for you and push the Java applet, and so you can actually spoof whatever you want to from that regard. That's later on.
Now that is sweet, because I was playing with this a little bit when you released it to me, and I had a chance to do that a couple times, and I did just for playing, like the FBI site, and it was amazing how fast it was, and it looked exactly, it was perfect. It was perfect.
What I do now is it's really simple. When I was programming it wasn't simple. But what I do is I grab the entire site, whatever the first front page is, and then I just replace all of the links that are in the website with those of the normal website itself. So it only downloads a small HTML file. It's similar to wget, and replaces all the links. So what it'll do is it'll actually go out and pull the website, and then all the rest of the content, the images, everything else, gets loaded from their web server, so you don't have to worry about downloading the entire thing. And so what it does now is it'll dynamically clone any website you want to. And so when you're doing a social engineering attack or a pen test, you can now clone your company's website or your customer's website and make it look and feel just like theirs is, and then automatically imports the applet for you, recodes portions of the website to include the applet attack, and then allows you to specify whatever Metasploit payload you want to. So if you want an interpreter, VNC, or whatever, it'll allow you to do that. And you can also import your own payloads now. So you can import whatever payload you want to. If you don't want to use a Metasploit payload, you can put whatever you want to in that. And what I just pushed yesterday, you can actually send emails with no attachments or anything like that. You can send in emails ahead of time to kind of say, hey, click this link or do whatever you need to, and then it creates the website for you.
Yeah, that's awesome. Really, I've got some positive feedback on the channel so far about it. A lot of people are really excited about it. As soon as you said that, and a lot of people are, I think we got to update the wiki page. I know we don't have time for that right now, but when we got to update that, we'll get that updated with some of the new features. Got a lot of people hitting that page right now looking for, write up on some of the new features that you just described. So.
Yeah, and one thing I want to also mention is a lot of people are unfamiliar with the config file in set. And that's one thing to definitely hit upon and that you want to get familiar with. If you go into, when you're downloading set and you go into the config directory, there's a set_config. And in there is a ton of options to give you more attack vectors with set. You can configure your interface for ARP cache poisoning. You can turn on ARP cache poisoning. You can configure send mail so you can spoof your email addresses. You can turn on the email attack to the website attack vector. So there's a lot of different customization options that you have available to you in the set config that you'll definitely want to take a peek at.
Awesome. It has turned into a beast, huh? Can you imagine when we just were discussing this idea, what it was then in a discussion and what it is now?
Insane, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. It really is.
Oh, one last thing I forgot to mention.
Yeah.
Last thing. The email spoofing stuff, the email attacks that you can do, the separate option other than the web attack, you can now create your own templates. So you can create your own social engineering templates, and it saves them, and it dynamically imports them every time you use set now. So whenever you're creating an email template for a customer or you want to reuse it for other people, you create it, and then next time you go into set, it'll be there for you so you can pre-populate it into the list.
Oh, nice. Very nice. Man, I tell you, it's going to turn into a beast. This is going to be like the biggest social engineering tool out there, I think.
Well, if anybody's good at writing GUIs or web interfaces or things like that, let me know because obviously with Fast Track, I kind of hacked that together. So if anybody's good with web GUIs or GUI clients, let me know, and I'd definitely like to pick your brain and get some more on that. Yeah,
seriously, if you are and you want to contribute, come into the channel on the irc.freenode.net. It's channel social-engineer. Or you can email Dave at Relic, that's REL, the number 1K, at social-engineer.org. Or you can just email contribute at socialengineer.org, and we'll hook you up with Dave.
I just want to mention that Fat32 is now my tech support weenie. So he helps out with the bugs and tracking and those type of things, and he's working on some bug fixes and documentation for set.
That's great. Your tech support weenie. I'm sure Fat32 will appreciate that title when he listens.
Well, we try to keep the Social Engineer podcast PG. I would have said the B word, but I left out.
Thank you. I appreciate that. We like to keep it PG. I actually had some comments on that. People enjoy it being PG. They enjoy not having to worry when their kids come in the room, so that's a good thing.
I agree.
So let's see. That's great. Actually, if you haven't got it yet, you can go to the website. You can check out. There's a little notation there how you can actually get Social Engineer Toolkit on your Linux box. There's an SVN link right there, so you can get that set up. And come into the channel. If you see Elwood or Fat32 or Dave or myself there, you can ping us if you have any questions, and all we do is just go back and ask Dave, and then he answers them. So,
if you guys have any bugs, email me. Let me know so I can fix them.
Yeah, I have to say, the first time I was able to go through and use that live, it was extremely useful, and so now with these new additions, really looking forward to the next time I get to use it there in the field and put it through all its paces. And it's almost like everything on my wish list there is now checked off, so this is great.
You actually used it in a live pen test, didn't you, Owen?
Yeah, sure did.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Getting some road credits with this product.
Well, Dave, I think it's pretty amazing. We've been using it quite a bit for demos. Did a local college when part of the pen test, and girls go click for your special invitation. And we did the vampire one for the women, and it was so sad. It's become such a standard in my pen test anymore, and it's really not failed me at all. I mean,
hey, I appreciate that.
You know what's funny, Brad, is how, when you're talking, you gave so much detail on girls, and it was like, that vampire thing for the girl. I don't even know what that one was. What's that called? But, girls, hey, let me tell you about this.
Yeah.
Nice, Brad.
Good catch.
Poor guys.
Hey, that's great, man. We got 2 people here using it in live pen tests. That's phenomenal.
Yeah, I really appreciate the compliments. And if there's anything you go on to add, just let me know.
Yeah,
they don't pay me unless I get through. So I use it as a demo. Don't pay me unless I get through. And oh man, I owe you several beers for this one.
Sounds good.
Moving on to the next topic.
PG.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? Talking about PG, next topic. Dave, last month you couldn't make it. You were traveling, and there was a whole mess of stuff going on. And we devoted our last podcast to you because, for the first 2 or 3, you were promising for each other. And then we finally gave it to everybody, and you weren't there, so we dedicated it to you. But now we need a new catchphrase to keep people listening to the end of the podcast. All
right. Well, how about we? I can't think of that at the top of my head. There's too much pressure.
I know it's too much pressure. We got to do something.
How can you get something better than? Free beer doesn't even equate to that.
Free beer.
No, that doesn't even come close.
So we'll give Dave some time to think of a new catchphrase because we're going to need it.
How to get a free droid? I don't
free
know.
Droid. Yeah,
okay.
But then, okay, we're telling everyone how to get free droids. Yeah, I don't know.
That's good.
Maybe we should have saved OkCupid to podcast 100 or something.
I agree.
Yeah,
because then I would have enough time to actually contemplate something better than that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this podcast, we hope you listen just because we're asking.
How about a free date with Mutz?
Yeah. Oh man.
He's not here right now.
The subscriptions are going to go up to 1 million. You realize that? I don't know if our web server can handle that now.
Free moonlight dinner with Mutz?
Free moonlight dinner with Mutz. I think we should give that away. Keep listening. At the end of the podcast, a free moonlight dinner with Mutz.
That's definitely better than
I think so.
Yeah, me too.
So,
can I win it?
No, you can't win it because it was you're part of the staff. Sorry.
Oh.
Spy Associates this month, they sent us this really neat device. It's a mini DV. It's what they claim to be the smallest digital video camera in the world. It's smaller than my thumb. I'll have some pictures forward on the site. And it's a high-resolution video recorder with an 8-gig chip inside of it. It has this really neat feature where you can turn on this voice button, and then it starts recording. It will sit silently, not recording, and then if it hears sound over 60 decibels, it will start recording automatically. So we started to think of some of the usefulness of this. You can have it in a room, your office, somewhere, and it will automatically start recording if it hears noise, people breaking in or whatever. There's some other cool features for it. But we'll have a write-up on it on the framework like we do each month, and you can check this device out. I think Jim and I were talking about this when he first got into security. We would talk about how we thought it would be so cool to have these devices, but just even 4 or 5 years ago, they were probably thousands of dollars and not nearly this small. It'd be walking in what's that 50-pound gear on your head? Oh, nothing, just ignore that. Now they're the size of a piece of jewelry, and they're tiny, and they're a couple $100. So definitely, if you're interested in covert recording devices, this is the way to go. The other thing before we start really on our discussion, I'd just like to say again thank you to the community. It has not slowed down with people emailing with their desire to contribute. and write in. We just recently had a couple great additions to the framework. We rewrote the whole framing section in the framework. We also had some tool write-ups. One of the guys wrote in with some write-ups on CUP and WYD and some other things in the framework. So you got to keep checking that out. Even if you've been there before, go back and see some of the things that are updated. So really nice work being done there. So just keep it up. We thank everyone for continually contributing. So this month, everyone's wondering, why do we have our special guest? Well, Brad is, I'm going to call him, I think he's too modest to accept this, but Brad is kind of a guru when it comes to NLP, and he also is a genius when it comes to social engineering. So we got him on here to talk to us about social engineering and NLP and marketing and sales. And when this podcast is released, you already have the newsletter. In the newsletter, there's a really nice article that was written by Brad and myself talking about this topic, but we figured we'd take it a step further and actually discuss some of these things here in our podcast. So maybe, Brad, if I didn't blow your head up too much, you can tell us a little bit about your background and your study in NLP and things like that, just so we kind of get a sense there.
Well, thanks, Emmett. It's not about what I've learned and how long I've been doing it. It's about what we can do to help other people get better and use it properly. That's really what this is about, isn't it? So,
it is.
Let's see. I started in NLP in the late 70s. I have a degree in clinical psych from Ohio State. I'm a registered nurse, and everybody lies to the nurse. I had a counseling business for a while. Oh, I hated it. I just wanted to say, you're an idiot, get divorced. But, you can't do that. You got to make the organization money. So I wandered away from that, wrote some software, more or less medical-based software, and live in outer Montana now, travel around. A couple of things, articles, podcasts, vlogs, and NLP. And I've really started to focus on the psychosonic aspects of NLP and how not just the words and how we frame them and how they come out, but the other sounds and things you can put with it. So it's an expansion of the current area. So been doing this since the 70s, and weirdly enough, first it was business people or therapists, and we will talk about how this is used in therapy. And then it was business people, managers, we're going to brainwash their people, and then it was the populace. Well, if they're looking down and to the left, and now it's I'm glad to see how do we gently describe ourselves, moving into this area, pen testers, moving into this area because we have made huge advances in making people aware of it. The PDF attacks, the whole thing David has produced, the whole website. It's not very often I can point at something and say the teeter has tottered. But the website, the products you're producing, you've really brought NLP to the forefront and tried to clear up some of the weirdness that's existed in NLP since Bandler and Grinder and everybody else put it all together. So I appreciate you having me on here. Thank you.
No, we appreciate it greatly for you coming on because we've been talking a lot about NLP and, of course, our whole site based on social engineering. And one of the highest requests we get from people writing in is, can you give me some examples of how this is used in sales and marketing? And I guess to me, you and I have had this discussion before, Brad, it just seems like it's obvious, but maybe to those who aren't familiar with it, they look at it and they go, okay, yeah, I know there's some manipulation in sales, but what are some of these techniques that are used? Like I'm interested, and I hate to put you on the spot, but you mentioned with NLP not just the words, but how we frame them. Can you give us an example of something like that might help us solidify that in our mind? Or?
Oh, yeah. This is a classic story in NLP and about framework. We all have our own schema or framework that we possess. We get it through life, through our family, through events that have happened. Think of this classic story. Bob is raised in the South. His friend was bitten by a water moccasin. Bob is scared to death of snakes, every snake. Bob decides to move away from the water. He moves into his apartment. His next-door neighbor is Bill. Bill's best friend is an 8-foot boa constrictor. Her name is Betty. Bill and Betty, they go everywhere. And all his friends know Betty, and Betty has a skateboard. Well, Betty and Bill go over to meet Bob. Bob freaks out. Now, Betty has not changed. The snake is still the snake, correct?
Right.
Okay. But the way it is perceived, or the framework that the snake is perceived in, his past history, is framed it so Bill is petrified of the snake, and yet the physical item has not changed. Anthony Robbins wrote in one of his books here, another NLP master, said a signal only has meaning only in the frame or context that we perceive it. Think about you're at a brothel and you wink at somebody versus you're in church and somebody winks at you. Maybe these don't have the same framework.
Yeah, very interesting.
Okay. The goal of almost all of these things is to reframe you. If you go all the way back to Milton Erickson, the whole founder, this whole NLP, Grinder, Virginia. She and Erickson came up with a family system therapy method, and there are basically 6 things. And if you look at the NLP framework that you have on the site, it is basically the same framework that they have caught for their family-centered therapy. So it's really excellent examples. If they have not read the framework part or the reframing part on the framework, they really need to. They'll get a lot. One of the easiest ones to use, and please feel free to use this one, they use it all the time during the holidays, is we want to reframe you away from, say, it cost a lot of money. So the traditional one I heard all this season was, it's not about how much it costs. It's how wonderful the smiles on your children will be at Christmas.
Yeah, so the whole redirection method.
Exactly.
Basically being used there to kind of direct your thoughts away from the cost. I mean, they're admitting it's going to cost something, but we don't want you to think about that. Just visualize how happy your mate, your girlfriend, your children will be when they receive this gift.
Exactly. And, that really works in bars, or it works in any type of sales pitch. You can then, if they're bringing up, it's going to cost so much or anything, you can always use these redirections and then a multiple series of redirections. And then you can connect them with becauses. I mean, because is such a great word. You can connect 2 totally irrelevant thoughts. Look at the classic study where they were people standing in line to Xerox. If a woman cut in front of a line or a man cut in front of the line, made a Xerox, everybody was ticked. If they came up in front of the line and gave the feeblest, weakest excuse, hey, can I cut in front of the line? I need to make some copies. They would let them do it, wouldn't they?
Yeah. I like also but and yet.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Like
same thing.
those.
Yeah.
You can link 2 completely. It seems like opposing thoughts.
Right.
Like I agree that this is very, very expensive, but like you said, imagine the looks on the face of your children when they receive this wonderful gift.
Imagine how envious your neighbors will be when they see you in this new overpriced piece of crap.
I love the
works
one
for these people.
I love the way you were telling me. We wrote this in the newsletter, but I love the way you were saying, like, everything that comes after the but or the yet is like the but is the delete key on the keyboard.
It does.
So I practice this, and it is really, really, honestly true. It's like, it's amazing. You can say whatever you want, and then if you say but, whatever you say after that is like completely erased.
Yeah.
I love the one example. Like, I really like you, but it's like, okay, you said I really like you, but after that fact, I mean, you can walk in. I mean, we probably all messed up and done this. Your wife says, how do I look in this dress? You look really great, but man, it doesn't matter what you say after that. The fact that you said that you look really great is wiped out. It's deleted.
Exactly. Delete key, just right there. Just
delete. Yeah. You're done.
And the easy way around that is, how do I look how does this dress look on me? Is, it's not how the dress looks on you, it's how great you've been to me all these years. I mean, a quick. Women like to know, and this goes back to the marketing between men and women, which we'll touch on it a little bit, and that women want to know that it has more value. It's not their physical attributes you get from their parents. Hey, babe, you got big. I mean, that's not the point. They're personal things. Hey, that is really great jewelry. How do you get such good taste? Let them then talk about it. So, same thing.
Guys, I think this is a good lesson to keep the nurse away from any of your wives or girlfriends. Period.
And one of the best ones with reframing was that with Pepsi. Remember when Pepsi reframed themselves into, the newer, younger generation?
Right.
Coke came back with the traditional. And so that whole Coke classic and things, they brought the classic back. And so one of the things I found is if you can talk about older, like Etta Jones singers that now sound like new singers, Amy Winehouse. And so it shows contemporaryism of both. So it works very well. They use it a lot. One of the books I highly recommend is Blink, Malcolm Gladwell. Anybody familiar with this book?
I'm not, no.
It should be at the top of your reading list. He is the one that was brought in to solve the Pepsi challenge, and it's just a really quick read. It is.
What's it called?
It is an amazing book. So Blink, Malcolm Gladwell. We all know Tipping Point, and a couple of his newer ones. But that was one of his first big ones. And he talks about reframing brands in there quite a bit. From Easy Jesus brandy, EJ, I know none of you drink that stuff like I do, where Paul Masson brandy was actually lower in cost, but everybody bought Easy Jesus, E&J brandy. It was in a cut crystal glass. They moved the glass. When they changed the liquor between the two, whichever one was in the cut crystal glass it was not cut crystal, it was cheap glass. Whichever one was in the nice-looking bottle got the higher reviews. So
Perception.
That's one of the things when I'm like in Vegas. I have a friend who likes to stay at, plug your ears, he likes Grand Mills, so we stay at Circus. And so he always reframes himself into that to make himself dresses nicer. Same thing for upgrades. Dress like you would want to be in first class, like you belong in first class. I mean, a lot of times I get picked just because I dress a little bit nicer to get moved up.
Yeah, maybe that's why I always get put in the back of the plane.
Yeah, guys in the black T-shirt that say DEF CON with the hats on backwards never seem to get bumped up with me.
Oh, man, I got to get rid of my chain wallet and all the shirts that say, like, if you look at me the wrong way, I'll replace you with a shell script or something like that.
Yeah, ones like that. And see, shirts like that are immediately framing them. When people look at you, they've developed a framework around that shirt, which they would then extend to you. Can you see how our clothes are just, reframing the way people first perceive us? They see us before they ever hear us or smell us.
Yeah.
Oh, my God, being in a room full of programmers. No offense, programmers, but being a programmer, it's like, you want a date? Take a bath. Maybe you'll get something better than .jpeg.
Well, usually when I present at, formal conferences or things like that, like big security conferences where, people are dressed in suits and ties and things, I usually try to wear jeans and a black T-shirt just to automatically drop my perception down a little bit so when I talk, I'm more fluent. They're expecting this hacker guy. Well, I guess I am a hacker guy. So
you lived up, right? You lived up to what they viewed you as. They view you as a hacker guy. You present. You're very intelligent. I've seen you. You're a great presenter. So
That's why I look good in jeans, though. That's the question.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Well, it's the same. The same is true for.
Chris has mixed feelings.
No, see, I'm going to say he looks good in jeans. That's why I keep my hair long and wear like Birkenstocks. It's part of the hacker hippie look. And same thing with you. You dress down. They're all in suits. It's like Major. He can wear T-shirts and jeans and blows all our brains away.
Right. Well, I would grow my hair out like a hippie too, but I don't have any hair, so problematic.
Yeah.
Elwood's hair. Your hair is like hippie-ish.
Well, it changes. It changes based on the weather. So, now it's cold out, so you got the beard and the hair. So,
right.
You grow your hair out?
He's completely bald, man. He's completely bald.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know if he grew his hair out.
Well, for the winter, it gets buzzed. It grows a little bit, but
well, like an eighth of an inch.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, you can't get too long. So this whole concept of how you walk forward, I can think of, like, say, when you're coming from consulting, when you walk in the room and you're the consultant, you're supposed to be that expert, and you have hardware that is lower quality than what the customer has. You know, it doesn't matter whether or not that higher-end hardware is really required to do the job, because you get judged by that right away. If you pull out, say, a Trio and everyone else is using an iPhone, you're not looking like the professional at that point.
Think about realtor trucks or cars. All the realtors drive big Cadillacs, and out here they drive Hummers and things like that because they want to show success. Think about watches. Do we really need watches anymore? How many people?
I like my watch.
Me too. I have an old Timex. But if you look at watches and watch ads, they become a status symbol. One of my Kuwaiti friends says they just buy watches to see how far people will cram their neck to look at it. The advantage
how watches have gotten bigger.
I have to say, though, I agree, though. I mean, whenever I'm in a business meeting, I'm always checking, and this is going to sound really not right for a normal guy to say this, but
Wait, hang on,
I'm always checking out the other guy's watch. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I'm always checking out the other guy's watch. You know, is he wearing a Rolex or an Omega, or, you know, is it a Timex or something like that? You know, I'm always checking out, and I'm always wondering, you know, it's a nice watch. You know, I'll look at it, you know, is it a Breitling or whatever? And to me, it's more of a status thing. I mean, I have a very nice watch. I have a Rolex, thanks to my prior company. Very, very grateful on that side of things. But you know, for me, I love a good watch, and I like looking at good watches. I don't know, it's just weird.
No, it's not. You're quite normal. Okay, tell me about watch ads. You have probably looked at enough watch ads over your life. Almost, I would say 98% of all watch ads have the hands at what time?
Have the hands at what time? I don't know.
10 and 2, because it looks like a smile. Look at every watch ad almost out there. They make it, if the watch is tilted in the diagram a little bit, they'll tilt the hours just a little bit to make up so it still looks like it's smiling.
You're absolutely right. I just did a Google image search on this, and at least 70% or higher of the results coming back are exactly that.
Wow, I never noticed that.
He's crazy. He's right. I'm doing the same thing.
NLP?
Google Images, and right there, 10 and 2. This is like the watches. Wow. It's ridiculous. Paytech Felipe watches. I'm looking at this one, 10 and 2. Discount Calypso, there's a 10 and 2. Fossil watches, all 10 and 2. That's very interesting, Brad.
I would have never guessed that.
And you said because it looks like a smile.
Looks like a smile.
Something similar and familiar in our minds.
Yeah, exactly. The
make
roundness
us happy
of the
to buy
face.
You know, I don't know if this is a good instance or a good example of NLP, but has anybody watched Inglourious Bastards?
Yes.
I haven't seen it. No.
Have you seen that instance where the main guy from the SS is explaining to us, you know, mice and rats and our impressions of them?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And where, you know, if a rat comes in your house, what are you going to do to it?
Kill it.
You're going to try killing it, right? You're going to try moving it outside the house or throwing it out or whatever you're going to do with it. But you have a bad impression of rats or mice automatically because why? Why do you have a bad impression of mice or rats?
I don't know. They're rodents. I hate them.
Heritage, upbringing, cultural. Some places, roast rat is wonderful. I mean, it's good.
Chinese restaurants around here.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, it came from your framework. You exactly have hit the point of the whole session here. Thank you.
Do you feel the same way? Do you feel the same way about a squirrel?
Sure, with a little sauce on it, a little cherry sauce.
No, but I'm saying if a squirrel ran in your house, I mean, would you try killing it, or would you try just shooting it out of the wall? I mean, do you have the same animosity, you know, towards a squirrel that you do a rat?
Yeah, that's a good point. You know, I mean,
I gotta say though, I've when I was a kid, we used to feed the squirrels on the back porch at my grandmother's house, and one time I was kind of stupid, and the squirrel came inside the house. And what was a cute animal while it was outside all of a sudden became a terrifying creature as soon as it was in the house.
But, I mean, do you feel the same between a squirrel and a rat?
I don't.
I personally don't either. I mean, I look at a squirrel, hey, that's cute. Same family, the rodents.
Yeah.
You know, people say, well, you know, and this is all in Inglourious Bastards. I'm stealing it from Inglourious Bastards. But, I mean, our perception is that, you know, rats carry disease, they're dirty, but squirrels are exactly the same way. They carry disease, they're dirty. The bubonic plague was created by rats, but that was centuries ago. So, I mean, our perception is that rats are bad because we've been taught our whole life, we've been programmed to think rats are bad. So we have rat traps. We have mouse traps to kill them with cheese.
Framing. You are so perfect. That's exactly, that example is an exact example of framing. Perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, very
well, hey, I'm glad I brought that up.
Yeah,
me too. I haven't seen the movie, so very nice. I'll have to go look at it.
He actually goes through, I mean, in the movie, he actually goes through a long description of why, you know, and this is obviously a Quentin Tarantino movie, so it's kind of whacked out in general. But, you know, he's like, why do Germans hate, the Jewish people? You know, it's just, you know, they don't know why, but they've been framed that way to hate the Jewish people. So, you know, it's all about framework and that type of thing. And he was using the rat analogy to compare it to how, you know, how the German army felt against, you know, Jewish families.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah.
We don't know why we hate rats. We hate them.
I never met one. Never knew anybody who met one, but I know I'd hate them. Yes, sir. Been there. Let's talk about reframing people real quick.
Sure.
One of the easiest things, and I really like reframing people, so we all bring this framework with us when we come in, the rats. I mean, what a great example and stuff. So how do we change our framework or reframe ourselves so we can at least, you know, move ahead? I'm a procrastinator. I've always procrastinated. So as Bandler said, most people defeat themselves every morning when they get up. I'm going to have a bad day. So they've already framed themselves into a bad day. The tiniest little thing happens, boom. See, told you I'd have a bad day. And they frame that day the whole time. Bandler's, my favorite quote from Bandler, it's sort of off the topic. You know the little voice you get in your head? And he says, when that little voice won't be quiet, just say, shut the F up, shut the F up. And he says it repeatedly, very loud in his head. Bandler talks, because he needs reframing quite seriously, and he has mastered this reframing. So when you get up or the new things you do, reframe it. And, you know, I'm going to have a great day. I mean, that sounds really stupid, doesn't it? But at least it's not destroying yourself. I always do that on tests. What you say shall come to pass. These are old quotes. So when I listen to people, that's why I hated being a therapist. You're right. All you do is whine. You're breathing. Be happy. I mean, they always want.
How do you change influence like that? I mean, when you're talking about reframing somebody, how do you? Let's just take an example of politics.
It's a 9-step process. It's a 9-step process. We could talk about all the steps. You can actually get reframing. Salad out of the UK is probably one of my favorite websites. Of course, it's listed on yours and stuff.
Salad.
And they actually give like total 4 things on how to reframe everything. I always believe in reframing it, but people have trouble reframing themselves.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, reprogramming yourself, depending on what you're reprogramming, you know, here's an example I thought of when you were talking. I'm not big for heat. I actually like it a little bit cooler. But when I went to Thailand to visit my wife's family, everyone there kept saying, "Oh, it's not too hot today. It's not too hot today." Now, if it was the same temperature here in Pennsylvania in the summer, I'd be dying. I'd be saying, "Oh my gosh, it's unbelievably hot." But because everybody around me kept saying, "Oh, it's not too hot today. It's only like 90 degrees," I actually started believing it wasn't that hot. And I found myself telling people on the phone, "Man, it's so comfortable here. I love the weather." And it was like, 2 weeks later, all of a sudden I'm thinking, man, 90 degrees, that's not that bad. It's actually really...
I had something similar. I mean, I went, I like it hot. And I went to Thailand, my wife's family, and, they used to say that, it's not hot outside, it's not hot outside. And, I believed them, and I would be telling them that 90 degrees wasn't hot.
Right. Thank you, gentlemen.
Did you just repeat everything I just said? Really?
Yeah. Well,
I couldn't capture it all in, so I kind of did it quick.
I have no understood. I have no. You just totally flustered me. What was that all about? You just basically took my story and repeated it. You realize I'm going to edit you out of this whole podcast.
I was trying to do the whole thing and let it go on for a while, but then I kept forgetting like bits and pieces of it, so I just did the quick summary version of it.
The whole section about social engineer toolkit gone.
But to the point, they were using consensus or social proof. Cialdini, Six Concepts of Persuasion. And you were classic. When the people around you were all saying something, it's not hot. Consensus, the lemming theory. So, one of my other favorite books is Cialdini's and stuff. So if you're not referenced to that. And he and his Echo, Port Zero, consensus, consensus social proof. So you just basically prove the same thing. Let's talk about how to something as far as SE and framing people for SE.
Yeah, that was my next question, was because this is all great and fun, and talking about it on a personal level. But now, if we're doing an audit, and social engineering is part of our gig, and we're trying to use social engineering to get into the company, how can these things? I mean, walking up to someone and saying it's really not that hot out, is not going to affect them. So how do we use this in a social engineering set?
That's really a good question, too. One of the interesting things is, which I'm glad you did, that there's a whole nice section on the framework, and it does talk about using framing for social engineering. We usually give people some type of choices, options, and one of the examples they use on there, which I think is very good, when I'm doing social engineering, like I said, I won't comment their bodies, I'll comment on their jewelry. If there's something in their office, like pictures of their kids, I won't say, hey, what's your kid's name?
Right.
Leer a little bit at them and stuff. I'll go ahead and, get them talking. I mean, open-ended questions on these type things. More like something about, how, your child seems very happy. You seem to have a happy family. Can you, what's your secret to that? And using those power words like secret and ones like that will help them. They feel they have a knowledge that they'll convey on to you. I want them to feel they have a knowledge because people who feel in a superior position actually talk more than those who are in an inferior position. Classic Columbo.
Yeah, one of the things that always seems to work, especially, let's say, with a secretary, when they have pictures on their desk, is commenting on how beautiful their children are. And even if you don't have kids, saying something like, oh, how old is your daughter there? She looks so beautiful. Mine's like 3 or 4.
Oh, exactly.
And now you've done two things. You put them at ease. You complimented their child, and then 2, you let them know, oh, I'm a father, also I'm a parent. And my daughter's probably around the same age as yours. Generally, they'll go right into. I've had people say things like, oh yeah, Melissa, she's going through that horrible 2 stage right now.
Oh yeah.
And you got her name, and it's just it's amazing. Again, and all of this is for. We should probably reiterate. People generally use their children's names or birth dates or things like that for passwords.
Right.
So
exactly.
Having that information could be essential in accessing accounts.
Well, and us as social engineers, I mean, just a normal person already has a guard up. I mean, they have a level of guard just because of the normal world. They see things on TV. They, generally people don't like talking to strangers or other people. I mean, again, you go back to it's our framework. It's how we're built up. So if you can already correspond with somebody and relate to them in a sense, that guard quickly goes down. And as social engineers, I mean, that's our number one, weapon that we have, to us. Whereas, on the technology side, it's improper coding, and this is improper coding in a sense to where, their guard's down. We've now established somewhat of a trust relationship, and from there we can exploit that and actually use it in our own way of gaining access to something.
I got to tell you guys, that, like one of the best things I've ever seen in my life when it came to this topic right here. I was just on a really long plane flight from Brazil, from São Paulo back to JFK, and on the plane I was in a row where I was actually all alone, and across the aisle from me there was a guy who was sitting in the middle row, and in front of him was I don't know how beautiful she was, but she looked beautiful, a beautiful Brazilian woman. And next to her was an older guy. An older guy, he had like long he wasn't dirty looking or anything, but he's had like really long hair, and he looked real tired. He looked like maybe he wasn't ready for the flight. And the guy was positioned in the seat behind the guy in the back row was positioned in the seat behind the older guy. Well, the plane takes off. Older guy puts his seat back, and you know how plane flights are when you're not flying business class. The seat's like basically in that guy's face almost. And this guy kept brushing his fingers through his hair. And his long hair would come back over the back of the seat and like touch this guy in the face. And I saw him getting irritated, like physically. He was getting like irritated. He kept like huffing. But the guy in front of him didn't realize what was happening, and he didn't do anything about it. He didn't say anything, but the guy was huffing and puffing. Well, an hour later, he just got fed up. He got up, went to the bathroom. When he came back, there was nobody next to him. He sat in the seat where the more beautiful woman was in front of him now. And she was doing the same thing. But when her hair would come back, he wasn't irritated at all. He sat there, and her hair was hitting him probably for like 3 or 4 hours, and he didn't move, he didn't huff, he didn't puff, he wasn't irritated. So it wasn't that the hair was irritating this guy. It was like the idea of this guy who was not attractive to him. He like looked at him differently. His hair was hitting him. That was unacceptable. But if the beautiful girl was brushing her hair, it was almost like, he didn't do this, but it was almost like he was sitting there like smelling her hair. And I thought, man, that is just so interesting to watch people's interactions with what they perceive to be beautiful or not.
Right, exactly.
I know if that guy, if it was me and I had long hair, that guy would have been okay with it.
Yeah. Man. Oh, yeah. Yeah. This guy, relic.
One last thing I want to mention here.
You're behind me. You wouldn't have had a problem. I would have just been like, it's okay. It's okay.
Very good. One of the things I use a lot is called world math or social math. And when I'm talking to people, I can say, well, it's, you've got 127 exploits, or, it's 87,000 feet tall. Or you can turn it into something they understand, like it's the length of 3 football fields. Or turn it into something that the normal person can relate to in measurements. The distance from here to the moon twice. So it's a nice way of conveying information to people when you're talking to them, where you can give them information yet not overwhelm them. When you reframe them, you want to give them choices, but you want to lead them to the correct choice, and by giving social math in the correct choice, even helps them make the right choice there. Can you
give us an example of that, like how, like you said you want to lead someone to a decision that you want them to make? How you would use that social math to do so?
Usually the classic example that's been around for 1,000 years is if you give a treatment, 200 people are going to die for treatment A. Treatment B, 33% of the people stand a chance of living, and you give them odds that way. Well, the better one would be, instead of a third, like one, of the 3 of you, 1 of you, instead of a 33%. Personalize it down even more. And I tend to make those, reframe those with social math. So it's one of those little add-on things that I want to throw in there. So it's, you can use social math in almost anything when you're doing almost anything. Okay.
How would you? I'm sorry, go ahead.
Did you all see the 2 recent reports on NLP that just came out in the last couple of weeks? NLP and tobacco treatment, cessation, that 1 out of 4 people are smokers, and NLP had one of the highest percents of curing over the drugs. and everything, and social anxiety. So that whole I'm not leaving my house thing. NLP has been showed as positive treatment. That one came out like yesterday, I think, that article. So
you have links to them. Send them to me. We'll put them in the podcast notes.
Perfect.
So you're telling that NLP is used to treat like agoraphobia and tobacco addiction?
Yeah.
And how are they doing that? Like, what's the methodology? Is it?
We usually work through scripts and reframing.
Huh.
So muscle relaxation, deep breathing techniques. Remember, NLP for SE is much different than NLP for healing people. I mean, we don't usually ask the secretaries to practice autogenic reflexes. We do some imaginary relaxation, well, mainly in our own minds towards them, but, these techniques we don't do, progressive muscle relaxation, PMRs, we don't do things like that on the social engineering side. And there is such a massive part of NLP that it's for the good part. So
let's bring that down to the social engineering level. I mean, let's talk a little bit about some of the things that you and I have talked about, also that what we wrote in the newsletter this month, like redirection and agreement framing, and how we can utilize those things in a social engineering gig. Maybe we can give a few examples or just discuss that briefly, how we might have done that in the past.
Let's see. I'm trying to think of an example here.
What I liked, one was I read an article once about, similar to what's in the framework right now about the human buffer overflow.
Right, thank you.
But something like that, but use some of the ideas that you had given us with the but and the yet. It's like, even though the but or the yet are delete keys, subliminally what you've said before the but and yet is still in there.
It is.
Yeah, so you can plant, and again, when we talk about this, I had one guy come in the channel, and he after he read that newsletter, he was asking a little bit about, does this mean like, you can control people's mind? I mean, it's not like Jedi mind tricks, like where you wave your hand and you say, I want you to give me the password, but, and then people just automatically give you passwords. It's they're just slight suggestions that might make someone more agreeable to believing your pretext, your storyline.
Right. Yeah, it is. And one of the things about buffer overflows, a lot of our people can, relate to this. Normal people only can keep about 3 to 5 things going simultaneously in their brain. What we have found out through, if you look at the research now, it's up to 5 to 7. Almost any time you hear somebody speak on NLP, they bore me to death. They start telling a story. Then you tell a story inside a story. Then you tell another story inside the story. Some people who aren't good, you'll see them actually counting the stories with their hands. When you get to 5, that's when you use the subliminal injection command, just like we've been talking here. This is when you can use the related to or the because or even the but to negate something out, to delete it. Once you get that buffer, it's just like ... Whatever overflows from the buffer, cmd.exe, that is what they're going to really subliminally be injected with. At that point, you start closing the stories. Well, what we have found out, 3 to 5, like I say, some of the younger people who can multitask multiply, they could go up to 7 times, simultaneously track up to 6 to 7 things. So what you do is tell a story inside of a story. And if they forget the story about Uncle Bob telling the story, that's okay for those people who can only handle 3 to 5. But normally I want to do a buffer overload on the smarter people because they're the ones that are more likely to shell out more information. They have more information to shell out. I don't care what size broom they're sweeping the halls with. I do care what they're using for their accounting package. So I will then go and fill the 7, implant the subliminal commands, and then close them all down. Now, the one thing you never want to do is leave a story open. That then jilts the whole thing. You don't get that. Standard buffer overflow, just like the brain, and that is one of the best times, just like anything else, is to inject the commands. And these are the good place to do it. So take a look at using the buffer overload, or the brain buffer overload, in conjunction with what we've been talking about. So it really does become quite useful. And weirdly enough, once you get your stories down where you can actually not leave stories open. You'll be amazed how well these things work.
Yeah, it is kind of interesting to really see that in action, too, and actually see it work. There was a nice article I was reading once about in written marketing how sometimes marketers will use this, like phrases like buy now, act now.
Yes.
These things maybe have less of an effect. So instead of just coming out right now in a written article and saying buy this now, they might ask a question like if you were to buy this now, how would you feel? Now, in that sentence, the buy and now are there. And maybe they're placed in the ad in the center where your eyes will catch them the most. So being in that way, or maybe they're italicized, or they're just a little bit bigger, or they're red, something to that effect, where your brain reads the whole, your eyes read the whole sentence, but your brain reads the standing out by now. Oh,
classic. There's entire books on written NLP and the words you choose and all of these. And you're exactly 100% right. People don't put enough forethought into their written NLP, especially marketers do. Ed McMahon was the best. Oh, my gosh, I still kept his old stuff. It was beautiful. He had PhDs in psychology designing his mailers. Anything you can find, you just look at it and you'll just think he is the best NLP. So I miss him for his marketing schemes.
Huh. That would be cool to put some of those in there, too.
Right.
Yeah, I saw one book. I can't remember the name. Maybe it was just an article in a magazine, but it was like one of the power questions, like when you purchase a product like this from someone like me, what features are most important to you? Right? And basically what's hidden in that sentence is when you purchase from me.
Right. And it's a future framing.
Yeah,
exactly.
It is. It's future framing, and they italicize, or sometimes the words that they want to bring out are just one dot pitch bigger. They're just one little bit, tiny bit bigger. They're italicized. They just look a little bit different. Maybe they're red instead of black or gray.
Right.
And you read the whole sentence, but your brain is reading something different. And it's future framing. That doesn't mean that everyone that reads that runs out and buys now or purchases from it. But like you said, if you're susceptible to that, then you will be. And the pretext of from a social engineering gig now, bringing that back. If you came into the secretary and you looked pleasant, you didn't look like a pervert. You looked like a professional. You looked like a nice guy. You had a nice smile. You seemed friendly. And you walked up to the counter and you started to, your daughter looks so beautiful. What is she, about, 2 or 3? Mine's 3 right now. And then, Melissa's 2 years old. The whole pretext, you can then start planning thoughts in those sentences to manipulate the conversation to the way you want it to go.
Yeah, exactly. Even the walk up, you manipulate it. Think about when you see a friend, you look at them and then you recognize them. So you have a neutral smile or a neutral facial position, and then as you move towards them, you make the smile start coming on because you recognize. Same thing when you walk into an office, a neutral face. When they catch your eye, you then start increasing your smile like a friend. It's the same subliminal behavior they exhibit when they see a friend, and it's a physiological behavior that then usually responds back with the mimicked same physiological behavior on their part. They will then gradually start smiling, and they have no idea why.
And you know what
I like about that is
I think that's pretty standard for all friends, though, because when I see Chris, he doesn't smile. In fact, it goes more to a frown.
That's because it's you.
Oh, okay.
Hey,
what I like about that example, though, is how there's the other side of that, where when you see somebody that you haven't seen for a while, you recognize them, and then there's that mutual, you recognize each other, and then you decide you're not going to talk. That you're not going to have that conversation, and it's that mutual acceptance that that's your relationship with this person at that point, and you both then pretend to not recognize the other person.
Right.
I read this really great in this section of the book from Dr. Paul Ekman on microexpressions, and he brought in there something that was really close to link to what you were saying, Brad. That the smile, like how, and of course he wasn't bringing it from a social engineering standpoint, but I'm tying it into that. If you look at how a baby smiles when it's truly happy, its smile is a whole face, the eyes get involved in the smile, the cheeks go up, the lips are up, the whole face is involved in a smile. So from a social engineering standpoint, if we really want someone to feel comfortable with us, then we have to practice not fake smiling, but being able to actually manipulate our face to have a real smile, even if we're not meaning it from a social engineering standpoint.
Exactly.
We can't, if you just fake smile, it's just with your mouth. And people actually, even if they don't physically see it and go, wow, there's something wrong with that guy, it makes people feel uncomfortable. People can recognize that, and they go, man, there's something fake about the guy. I don't know what it was, but I didn't like that. Where a whole face smile, it makes people right away feel very comfortable. Yes,
yes. When you read the book Blink, notice how that was future projection for you.
Yeah, I'm going to find that.
After you finish reading the book Blink, he in there talks all about it and how they discovered it, talks about them shocking their muscles in their faces to see which ones move so they can control them, to measure all of this. And as most of you realize, it depends on whose theory, but there's only 7 basic facial emotions. And if you watch the TV program Lie to Me, it's on Hulu.
Yep.
I don't know. I'm sure it's on TV somewhere. But
on Fox.
Yeah, thank you. If you watch Hulu, Lie to Me, they show clips of the 7 basic faces as you coming in. And then during the program, if somebody makes a face, they show repeated episodes of that same face. So some people say there's 15, some people say there's 23. I stay with the 7 basic facial emotions from around
actually,
the world.
if you read Dr. Ekman's books all about facial microexpressions,
exactly.
He says the same thing that you're saying. And his research is just phenomenal because you know a lot of these other ones that were people they branch it out to 15 or 23. They're just subsets of some of these other emotions, but keeping it to the major emotions, we find doing some of their online training. Like Dr. Ekman has some training on his website. Phenomenal stuff, what you can learn by just reviewing things. And you keep getting, some of these facial expressions come up in like 25th of a second. But learning to read that and then control it, I think also from, not getting into that topic on this podcast, but from an NLP standpoint or just from manipulating it, social engineering, being able to produce those facial expressions in a real way, especially things like what you're saying, smiling and happiness.
Right.
It's important.
Right.
Being able to do that. Yeah. Brad, I can't believe I just looked and I saw that it's like we've been here more than an hour. You gave us a lot of your time.
Well, I am pleased to be here with David. It's an honor to be here. I mean, his SE tool, what a pleasure. And Elwood and Emmett, everybody's just been great. I appreciate everything. I appreciate you having me here, too.
Would you come back again?
Just let me know, and I'll be happy to. SE is probably one of my favorites. Been doing it for decades. I don't have any answers. The more I learn, the more I know. It changes daily, it seems. So
it does, but these kind of discussions are really useful for us. And having someone like yourself, I think NLP can't be discussed and covered in 40, 50 minutes. So it would be great to do this again.
Right.
This is probably one of my favorite ones I think that we've done.
Yeah, really, very, very, very useful information in this podcast.
Well, thank you, gentlemen.
Practical.
I really appreciate your time, man. And I appreciate the compliments. It's been great. I learned a lot. This is, like I said, it's one of my favorite podcasts.
Well, thank you, sir. So, we can have a love fest because I love your software. So.
Well, you're going to be a schmoo, right?
No, I probably won't be at SMU. I'm trying to go. Well, when you run your own business, always DEF CON, Black Hat, and Interop. I'm on the Interop circuit, so you'll see me at Vegas and Interop New York and stuff. So.
All right, well, DEF CON, Black Hat, we'll meet up or not a con. Either way, definitely some mutual beers going back and forth, but only 3. So
I agree with that. We'll limit it, both of our ages. Well, my age, so. Thank you, gentlemen. And as always, the framework is wonderful. If you need a basis to NLP, visit the framework. And with the new updates on it, it will be even nicer. So,
thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming, Brad.
I got to do this to conclude on the outro. You're going to hear some music. It's from ccmixer.org. The title is Michael Anthony. He's the artist. So if you're interested in that, you can check him out on ccmixer.org. And we thank not only Brad, awesome podcast, but Dave and Jim for being here. we
before we go, though, we should definitely mention there's this one story where I went over to Thailand and
you're just messing it up, man.
Did you get 3 girls?
No, he's trying. I don't know what he's doing. I think he's trying to copy my story. His wife's not from Thailand. She's somewhere in the U.S., and he was trying to copy my story about going to Thailand. I think he was trying to frame himself into being me, because he wants to be me so bad, which I don't understand.
I'm going to drive down, I do drive down to your house and, monitor your house with binoculars. So.
He wants to be me because I get to work with Mutz every day. That's it.
That's true. I'm jealous.
You are a lucky man.
I am a lucky
Mutz,
man.
We missed him, and we'll talk to him next, or we'll hear him on the next podcast.
Yes, yeah, we'll be out in Denver.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point. Since Mutz isn't here, we're probably not going to be able to do the whole free romantic dinner with Mutz. We'll probably have to wait till the next podcast for that.
Yeah, because we got to get his approval, so you got to come to the next podcast.
Right, so definitely listen to the end of the next podcast, and that's when there'll be a free romantic dinner with Mutz.
This can work, Dave. This can work. Okay, guys, thanks a lot, everybody, and we'll see you guys next month.
All right, bye-bye.
Take care. It's a pleasure.
See ya.
Bye.
Looking around you and thinking it's okay. Forgetting about the things that you did yesterday. So many problems you face. Oh, walk that away. Stay on track. Walk on. Watch your back. Walk on. Stay on track. Walk on. Watch your back. Oh, walk on. Ooh, walk on. Walk on. Walk on. When I'm thinking about the times you say, talking about every single day. 2 steps forwards and 1 step back. Walk on. Trying to remain on track. Yeah. Stay on track. Watch your back. 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 Walk on. Walk on. Walk on. Walk on. You walk up to the line. Time after time. Thinking things will stay the same. Now the game isn't played that way. You've got to stay on track. Walk on, watch your back. Walk on, stay on track. Walk on, watch your back. Walk on, looking around you and thinking it's okay. Forgetting about the things that you did yesterday. But if you only knew that the game isn't played that way. Stay on track, walk on, watch your back, walk on. Stay on track, walk on, watch your back, walk on. Stay on track, walk on, watch your back, walk on. Stay on track, walk on. Watch your back, walk on. Stay on track, walk on. Watch your back, walk on. Stay on track, walk on. Watch your back, walk on. Stay on track, walk on. Watch your back, walk on. Stay on track, walk on. Watch your back, walk on.